Perhaps I could invite Jonathan G to tell us something about how things look like at his end.
Thanks for the opportunity. Look, I think historically the access issues for blind people using screen readers in particular is almost a consequence of the problem that Nelson just raised, that of the proprietary formats and formats that aren't easily interrogated by a machine, let alone a human. So our screen reading software has historically had more challenges with the file types that were proprietary. And even today, we are still best off by processing things that are as convertible to plain text as is machinably possible. So our best access does come from plain text files, HTML, which is just a plain text file, and the other file types that are keeping it simple in terms of what they're doing. Where are the problem ones coming in? Now, if you were thinking about how we represent everything in plain text, and you say, if I can easily express it in plain text, then I can easily express it to a screen reader, which can then easily express it to the human who can't see the screen. And if we were looking at the text representation of all manner of objects that exist in our files, you would soon see that the graphics come out as coded gibberish, even in an HTML file where a graphic is embedded. And similarly with historically a lot of mathematical representations. That's been made simpler, or maybe I should say less complex, in the last 5 to 10 years, with the raw mathematical content often being visible in the text file that is HTML, knowing that the browser is going to take that content and know how to process it for the person who is looking at the screen with their eyes. So, if we look at the way access has improved for us, it does come back to Nelson's point about what is in text as against what is in a bunch of text characters that are not human readable. So the two do match up absolutely crucially. I understand the difference in the language between a pipeline. In a work context, I use the idea of a pipeline as per the Unix definition. It's not Unix that I'm using, but it's that same linear process from an input to an output. But I also understand the idea of a pipeline for an end user who effectively wants to know that they can push something in and walk around the other side and pull something out that is different. And so maybe it's the black box sort of thinking rather than the pipeline, because the user in the context that Steve is looking at doesn't need to know what happens in the machine. They want to push in the thing that is junk to them and pull out the object or the file that is then useful to them. So I understand the idea in terms of the language. What I would say is that the pipeline or the black box actually, to work, has to be a plethora of pipelines in the Unix sense, because it does have to deal with all the different kinds of potential content that a document would contain. I think that'll do for the moment. Thank you.
In the browser context, I'd like to introduce a different sort of pipeline.